I accidentally erased the last video. I was 20 minutes into it. Shaz, this is the second time you've done it. Fucking movie maker. It would be nice to be back on a Mac with a little bit of money. I'm using Stone Age tools here. Creatives will understand. He's okay. We're just going to do this over again. This is a marathon, not a sprint. We did Vieques license. What was I talking about? I'll have to remember what I was talking about. The Monte Pirata, where pirates would watch the trade from the old world go to the new. Trade from the new world go to the old. Vieques was always the outpost for the refugees. It's the type of island during the height of piracy where you would have that's the beauty of something like this. It's all random. So this is going to be completely different than the last 20 minutes I've been talking about. He's okay. And now we have an example of an expression of Shaz during a setback, or whatever you call it. You know what? I should have gotten water. I needed water. Now I'm going to be an hour and 20 minutes before I get water. Pirates would pull up to an island like Vieques to get a crew, because you had runaway slaves there, you had pirates. It was like lawless. The first, I think it was the Spanish. I have a couple books on Vieques history. The first mayor of Vieques, I think it was Spanish, died a death where he fell down a ravine or something. Maybe he was drunk on a horse, but it was a lawless place. You had basically feudalism. A couple landowners controlled most of the land. A lot of people worked for subsistence wages. You had sugarcane. Sugarcane was one of the main crops being grown over there, and the workers would have a little place where they can live and then garden and create their own lifestyle, but then they had to work for like this feudal type system for the large landholders. You can go into the jungles of Vieques and see the ruins of old sugar mills, and then the city's built out from there. But the center of the city was the industry, which was where they were, or whatever the process was to break down and make the sugar. There's a small gauge railroad track that runs around the island too. You can find it in parts where they would take supplies around the island. Then America got it after the Spanish-American War, and then we appropriated the land. Well, no, we didn't appropriate. We paid off the landowners and bought the land from them and turned it into a military type base, the whole island. The middle third, we shoved all the population to the middle third, or we kicked them off. So a lot of transplants from Vieques went to St. Croix at this time. This was around World War I, World War II, and we turned it into a military base where let me think, geography, east, west. The west side of the island, we house munitions, and there's these rolling hills where underneath there's bunkers where they would store their bombs and their weapons and stuff. From above, you can't really tell. They disguised it as hills. And then the east side of the island was a live impact area, training exercise. One of the few places in the world where the military, I think few places, where they actually test all the weapons. A lot of cluster bombs are still there. A lot of munitions, depleted uranium, heavy metals. Vieques has one of the highest cancer rates, if not the highest, in the United States. It's basically, that whole area is a toxic Superfund site. We call them the bomb boys. The bomb boys are in there cleaning it up. In the 90s, they got the military to stop dropping bombs over there. But up until the 90s, to live in Vieques was to live with a constant deafening noise of bombs around you. They were literally like you would have destroyers off the coast shooting at the island. Live impact areas in the military are areas where they can stage full-on war exercises. They supposedly staged the invasion of Iraq there. there's this veteran from the 80s, a good buddy of mine, one of the first people I met over there. And he lives as a wino on the streets. But he would talk about how they used to just drop them off on the coast and they would play the war games where you have to go and talk to locals and try to raid this certain area or get to the certain area. He was in the Marines. But they would send people in the bush over there. They would stage amphibious landings on their beaches. They would shoot their beaches with they had on Culebra too. They used Culebra as well. There's some old tanks left on Culebra, and they would put old military equipment on the beaches and then shoot at it from the ocean, from these warships. And then they would also, So the people who live on these islands, you hear these deafening explosions constantly, day and night. And then they accidentally dropped a bomb. I think it was a bomb from the air. I think it was from a plane, not from one of the ships off the coast. And it hit one of the guard shacks and killed a local. And then that instigated the first protests. And then the locals started going out into the beaches, occupying the target areas so they wouldn't shoot them. And then that was a standoff between the Navy and the locals. I think that was, I haven't read these books. These are all just stories I've heard from people talking. This is oral history. This is, before you read the books, this is all experiential. I have the books and I have stuff I want to get into, just like anarchism. But these opinions and interests come from meeting people. So I stayed with one of the ladies, her family was one of the first to start occupying the Navy land. The Navy owned, the federal government owned 2/3 of the island, the left third and the right third. One, they kept their munitions, the other ones they used for impact exercises. So the locals started going in there and just building their houses on these hills, taking a backhoe up, making a road up the hill, just start building houses. The local cement factories, pumping out concrete, cement. It's just do it yourself, Lego construction. This family in particular, it's very famous. If you go and you look them up and you look at all these little stories that came out of that time. I know the whole family though, and her husband died maybe in the 90s. But they built a little castle on top of this hill. They just kept going back there and building their houses, and then they would get evicted and they'd just go back. And now a lot of that land is settled. And now they're figuring out who owns the title. The government gave the titles to the local municipality, gave it to Puerto Rico, who gave it to the local municipality. But you still have to figure it out. If you're going to buy land over there, you could buy it in the actual cities, the incorporated areas. But if you're going to buy it in the reclaimed areas that were taken back from the military, it could be a bitch figuring out, all right, to clear the title. Because it was taken from the military, and then the military finally left, but then you might have other people who are claiming interest in the title, the people that the military bought it from, those original landholders. So I knew this couple who had one of the restaurants on the island, and they told me that they got a really good deal on their property. They bought the property and started the restaurant, and they said it only took them a year to clear the title, but they paid over $20,000 or something. They paid a lot of money to a lawyer, and that's what he had to do. He had to go through the history and clear the title all the way back to the military and then before, and make sure that there's no previous claims on the land from the original owners before the military even came to the island. So it could be complicated, but if you can navigate that, there's some interesting opportunities. But then what's more important in Vieques? For the locals to own their land, or is it going to become like a tourist area where it's going to start turning over, and then like Hawaii? People would tell me down there, they'd say, the visitors, the old hippies, because it has a really good hippie energy. It attracts really cool people. The tourists who come down there are a very interesting character because it's still hard to get to and it's not that popular. But as it gets more popular, that's going to change. Already right now, every year I go down there, it's different. I started going down there 7 years ago, and businesses I knew back then was like within a couple of years we're doing twice as much business, and then again a couple of years twice as much business. Now these guys have new trucks, houses, renovating. The Hurricane Maria was devastating, but other than that, yeah, it's growing. But as it grows, are the locals owning the growth, or are you leaving people out? If you leave people out, you have poor living next to rich. There's a W Hotel on the island. W is owned by Starwood. They have one hotel in the Caribbean, I hear, and it's on Vieques. Christina Ricci, I think went down there. Rihanna went down there. There's a couple. It's on the radar. It's just like one celebrity resort or ownership away from being the next cool thing. Culebra, which is the other sister island just north of it, consistently ranked top one, two, or three beaches in the world. So Culebra is world renowned, but it's also, they got the Navy out in the 80s. So they're about 30 years ahead of Vieques as far as development. And they have a different character. They already cater to exclusive celebrity type clientele. There's resorts over there where you don't even know who's coming in and out, private beaches. A lot of the celebrities who go down to Puerto Rico, Culebra is like the low-key secret hangout, supposedly. Vieques is wild, more wild. Pirate Island. While I was there, they burnt a cop car. They beheaded a rapist. I don't know, I didn't see the video, but supposedly there's videos going around. A lot of crazy shit goes on. They raided the local police force, arrested over half of them. The largest local police force corruption scandal, supposedly in FBI history. Let's see. Vieques. Local police corruption scandal. 89 Puerto Rico cops arrested in corruption probe. October 6, 2010. Yeah, so that was around my time. I think I just left the island. They said they went to there was a big deal over there. FBI agents arrested scores of Puerto Rican police officers Wednesday for allegedly aiding drug dealers in what authorities say was the national agency's largest ever police corruption investigation. About 1,000 federal agents, most of them flown in from the U.S. territory, swept up 130 people, including nearly 90 law enforcement officers, accused of providing security to drug dealers on an island where police force already has been tarnished by allegations of brutality, blah, 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 whatever. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is that, to me, as well, as far as I was concerned, it was lawless. The cops were cool. I had a friend, she drunk driving over there, drove her car up on a bridge. They found her, and they pulled her car off and gave her a ride home. It's how you would imagine the Wild West is. They'll give you enough rope to hang yourself. Unless you're really stupid, if you're drunk driving, you're gonna hit a horse and you'll probably die. Not die, but like you're gonna cause a lot more damage to yourself. That's why the expatriates go down there. Not all the gringos, but there's a lot of people just drinking as soon as the bars open at noon. You could do whatever you want down there. Most of the time I lived there, I didn't have shoes. Walking around barefoot, I wasn't the only one. A lot of hippies go down there. Met people on the beach just camping, figuring out their life. I took a girl to a secluded area over there, and someone dropped a rock on my head from a cliff. Busted my head open pretty bad. I think I told that story already, how to get stitches. The cops asked me if I wanted to do a report. I'm walking this off, it's alright. I know people know of me. Later on, a couple years later, someone tells me, yeah, I think we know who did that thing to you. If you want to figure stuff out, you could figure stuff out. And what are you going to do? You're going to make things a big deal, or you're going to take your L and move on? So my first week there, there's this party, and my friends introduced me to everyone. And my friend, I went down there, and she was staying with someone. She was in between places. I stayed with them for a week, and then I had to go and get my own place. She made the introduction between me and her boss. Her boss said he might get me some work as a tour guide. I was like, cool. So I had to leave her friend's place. I told her I would. I surprised her with her bike. I was like, she wanted her bicycle shipped to her. I showed up with her bike, being like, here's your bike. And here I am as well. I think we're going to check this place out for a little bit. Cool. But you don't want to be a burden. So after a week, I was like, all right, I'll start doing my own thing. So she gave me a lead on a job and a lead on a place. You might be able to stay with this old lady who was a part of the struggle. She rents out rooms for $50, $150 a month. Pretty good. I shared it with a buddy. A buddy of mine from Santa Cruz was down there, who she also knew. We all knew each other in Santa Cruz. So he had the room. Oh, so I had my bags. I was in the town square. This is, I think I was saying in the other video. I was in the town square, being like, all right, I got a lead on the job, but don't have the job yet. Got a lead on the place, don't have the place yet. But I told my friend I'll leave today. So now I'm in the town square, and I had to figure out how to get to the lady's house who sold the room, who rented the rooms. And then hopefully my buddy was there, and then I'd be able to be like, all right, can I crash with you? And within the month, I'll give you the $75. Just a couple days worth of work, I'm sure I could get that. Now, late 20s, I know that some of the rules on how life works. I have a word, I'm a hard worker, I have integrity, people seem to like me. If I just, I could sense a vibrancy. There's money, there's tourism. If I just show that I'm willing to work, I'll find something. Those first couple weeks, someone offered me $50 to clear land with a machete. So that day I was the guy wielding a machete. And then what else? I went to that restaurant. Those people own that restaurant. Those people who own the restaurant. The phone. I picked lobster. Yeah, they have lobsters. They don't have normal lobster like Maine lobster. Down there, there's spiny lobster. You have to wear gloves when you operate them. And so spiny lobsters, I picked out the lobster meat. And for him, I worked. I was going to be the host maybe, but then I wasn't quite cut out to work in a restaurant. They didn't really like my vibe. I guess I was a little bit too spacey to be at the front of the restaurant. But I worked a little bit in the back, helping them prep when they were really busy. I also helped them degrease. Once a year, they take out all the kitchen equipment and break it all down and degrease it. I helped them with that. So every now and then you get money, this and that, until I started getting regular gigs, being a tour guide. But back then I was in the town square. I remember having 2 bags or 1 bag or whatever, being in between places, being like, all right, I'm in the Caribbean. I chose this adventure. We'll figure it out. And this local guy comes up and he asks for money. One of the local bums just who lays around in the sun all day drinking his Palo Viejo. Palo Viejo is a $5 bottle of rum. And he asked me for some money for a bottle of Palo. And I'm like, dude, I don't even have a job. I don't have any money. I don't even have a fucking cigarette to give you. This is what I have. 2 bags. I'm trying to find money, or I'm trying to find a job and a place to live right now. And he looks at me and he's just like, all right. And he just understands and he walks off. And I'm sitting there in the town square. What it was is, it's such a small place that I was hoping that the buddy who rented that room from that lady would walk by. Because sometimes that's what you do. That's how I first saw him on the island. I was just sitting there by the beach on one of their main drags. And he walked up behind me. He was like, hey, you look a lot like my friend. And oh my God, fucking David, or what do you call me? McNumbnuts. McNumbnuts. What the fuck? Yeah, he has a way with phrases. He's the guy with the banjo. McNumbnuts, what are you doing here? I was about to say, I was about to ask you look just like my friend from Santa Cruz. I'm like, yeah. Came down here, dude. I heard it was a fucking place to be. A couple of our friends had gone down there. So I'm in the square, hoping he's going to pass by. Otherwise, I'm going to have to try to find this lady's house, but I didn't really trust my navigational skills, because if you'll see on that license, there's no real street addresses. That's why I love that license, because it's a federally acceptable license. Puerto Rico is the United States territory with no street address. You want to send me a ticket? Yeah, send it to Bravos of Boston. There's no fucking, the mailman knows where people live. But the fucking houses are on reclaimed land that used to be Navy land. So they don't have shit. The water runs into the ocean. There's no sewer, there's no street addresses. These people have just sprawled into it's like in the country. It's like going into Appalachia but even worse, because even there, I'm sure there's addresses and federal shit. This is all within decades that all of this went from Navy territory. Well, it was like basically like serfdom, like a couple landowners, and then the workers who would work the land for the landowners, but then have their own little plots to live on. So it was like feudal like that, up until the World War I, World War II, when the Navy took it over, and then when they did their struggle and took it back from the Navy. But they're in that in between period, and now the island's growing, and the municipality, the local government's all fucking corrupt and bullshit. So there's not much progress there on getting people titles and getting things on septic and sewer systems, which is probably bad for the local ecosystem. And then that homeless guy comes back, that guy who just was looking for his bottle of rum, he comes back with, he gives me $2 and he gives me a cigarette. He's like, here. Because he had asked me for something. I sincerely said, I have nothing. I'm waiting for my luck to turn. And so then he went and he got something and gave it to me. And I looked at him, I was like, this is a real one. This is a, I mean, it was an investment. He'd seen this story before. Fucking gringo, American comes down here. He knew the pattern. I'm going to get work. I'm going to remember he was kind to me. And every time I see him, I'm going to give him money, which is what happened. I got work. I would see him around, remember he was kind to me. And every time I saw him, I would give him money. But it didn't touch my heart any less. That's the wild. That's the dude when I'm walking by I think it's Albany Projects in Crown Heights. And the dude's like, yo, that guy up there coming out the gate, his pit's not a nice dog. You should probably cross the street. I'm like, thank you. Good looking out. I don't want a problem. That dog I was walking was from Puerto Rico. My friend, she found her on the beaches of Puerto Rico. And that dog got attacked by a pit bull down there. And my friend, she jumped on the pit bull and started beating its ass to get it off of her dog. She was fucking socking it in the head, stuck her finger up its butt, all the fucking tricks you're supposed to do. It would not take its mouth off of her dog's neck, and they finally had to get a license plate and stick it in the dog's mouth and pry its... You have to use like a crowbar, basically. Like, a pit bull attack on a dog that... Well, on any dog, it's pretty vicious. So, when that guy in Brooklyn told me that, I was like, this dog knows what's up. We ain't trying to fuck with no pits right now. He's a big dog. He's like 60, 70 pounds now. Apparently, there was one running with a pit later on, and after he got fucked up by that one pit where she saved him, and that's the bond between a human and a dog. And then there's this other pit who tried to fight him. He jumps up on his hind legs, and he's like that. And so he's not letting the pit come out his neck. Like, he already knows how the score goes, so he comes up. He was like boxing the pit. He was like up on two legs, but really tall. He's lanky. He's like a lanky, long-haired dog. But and sharp teeth, chicken killing teeth. When he was a puppy, he would kill. There's chickens on the island, iguanas and chickens. I had a dog down there. So I eventually find my buddy, start renting a room with him. $150 a month. And I pay 75, he pays 75. Oh, and then I can read this poem, and then we can talk about my stories, because the stories of me bringing girls back to the room, learning a little bit more about my sexuality, like what is my appetite and what is my skill set, with like long hair, and like I was a Caribbean dude now, so now it's like shooting fish in the barrel. The girls come down and they want their tourist adventure. They want their this one girl, she even told me, she's like, you're like my Latin lover. I was like, I could be that. I could be whatever you want me to be. That's cool. Let's get down. Whatever. Fucking so here we go. 3 songs. This song was written. Girl that I met on the beach, she was bitten. Venom it reached to the soles of her feet. That's not how I sing it. I sing it. This song was written. Girl that I met on the beach, she was bitten. Venom it reached to the soles of her feet. Couldn't complete the walk home. She had to live on the beach. Built her a lean-to, made out of driftwood. I didn't mean to stay there so long. It was only supposed to be one song. But I ended up on that beach. Every time I catch her eye. Elephants and tigers. Every time I lay beside her. Elephants and tigers. Big enough to shake the world. She's got a Sunday dress and a mother's pearls. Seminary lost its charm. Sunday dress in a young boy's arms. Day come, break me, scramble me. She makes eggs like we're family. Let's take up in a chapel. You pick the flowers. We'll start a family tree. Day come, break me, scramble me. She makes eggs like we're family. Let's take up in a chapel. You pick the flowers, we'll start a family tree. Every time I catch her eyes, elephants and tigers. Every time I lay beside her, elephants and tigers. Anyways, I don't know. That's just a bunch of parts of songs. I would play one song. This song was written, girl that I met on the beach, and then Every Time I Catch Your Eyes was something I had from a long time ago, but I like that, Elephants and Tigers. And then that, and the next part was all part of another song that I was working on. Big enough to shake the world, she's got a Sunday dress and a mother's pearl. And then that Day Come Break Me and Scramble Me was the last little part from another song. I was just like, and then I looked at all these scraps, and then at one point I was like, fuck, these will all, and that's why I call it 3 songs. I'm like, yeah, it's one song now. 3 songs into one song. But I just like the images. It might not make sense. I like that. Day come, just image of waking up with someone. Break me and scramble me. She makes eggs like we're fat. I made shy eggs when she spent the night. The first couple nights she spent the night with me, and we didn't have sex, but we talked just for 2 days straight until she went home. And I was pretty sure that like I was falling for her, and I was pretty sure that she hadn't quite fallen for me enough to put me above whatever other dudes she was entertaining in her life at the time. And I was like, I need to push this over the edge. And then I wrote something sincere to her, and that pushed it over the edge. Yeah. Let's take up in a chapel. I don't know. So in Puerto Rico, I was like, who was the first girl? My first month or 2 there, I have that room, and I'm at these bars overlooking the ocean. I'm starting to get tour guide work. In the back of a truck driving to the bioluminescent bay. They have the brightest bioluminescent bay in the world. You touch the water and it glows. You just look it up online. It glows bright enough to read by. So bioluminescence is light from life. And there's a whole spiel that we do when we're out there. I was always a helper. I never really did the spiel, but I wasn't trying to be too much. I just made enough money to get by, and then eventually I just started doing my own tours and my own hustles. Because that's local stuff, and you don't want to compete too much for local work. I understood that much too. I would get the work when it came, but if the work didn't come, I wouldn't get too mad. There's this whole humility. This dude told me, he was like, I like you because you're humble. I let stuff come to me, but there's some people I would meet down there who are very much, they feel there's this entitlement to it. And with the history of the island and the struggle with the Navy and other stuff and the poverty and most of the islands on welfare, and I get it. And like when I get robbed from, or when I get attacked with the rocks, I get it. Doesn't mean that I'm gonna back down, but I understand human motives. Like that guy who, that first week went to a party, people introducing me. They thought I was a mark. They thought I was whatever you call it. They're gonna come up on me, which they did. But I was just like, I get it, for good or bad. Like when the guy was like, I was on the beach with him, end of that party. I got to that party and I was like, where can I put my stuff? Because I had a backpack with a laptop and stuff. I just traveling around the island, didn't trust leaving it at that house I was staying at, so I kept it on me. Got to the party, I was about to get drunk. The first thing I was like, all right, I want to put my stuff somewhere safe. Asked one of the people I've been introduced to as like a good guy, where can I put my stuff? You could throw it in that truck. I do. Halfway through the party, I notice the truck takes off. Don't say anything, but I notice it. Later on, towards the end of the night, we're sitting on the beach. And we just start talking, me and him. He starts offering me work. I'm like, nah, man. Because I'm already in my mind kind of seeing the score I just came up on. Like, nah, man, I know who you are. He's like, what? I was like, I don't know you, but I know you, man. Just like that. He's like, you don't know me, man. I was like, I know you. I don't want your work. I'm good. We ain't got to talk about shit I don't want to talk about. My name's Paul, and that's between y'all, is what my friend always says. My name's Paul, and that's between y'all. I don't want to be having this conversation right now. I don't want to relate to you on that level. He looks at me. We're drunk by now, looking at the ocean. He doesn't know who I am. He's getting to know who I am. He looks at me. He's like, this is the ocean. And big fish eat smaller fish. I'm looking at him, and he looks at me. Fucking mean. Right, my face is like, I'll eat you. I look at him, and in my mind, I don't say it, but in my mind, I'm like, this dude just fucking stole my shit. Yep, that was no doubt in my mind. I didn't say, I didn't even, why talk about shit you can't control? I was just like, I know the score. I'm one person down there. And then in my mind, I'm like, my friend has her friends. This is all on me. That's when you realize you're alone. It's like, that's like when you're on the schoolyard or something, and supposedly your friends walk you into something where you get jumped or something happens. It's like, all right, reevaluate. Who are my friends? Sometimes you just gotta have your back against the wall. And yeah, we moved enough schools that I knew how to start from scratch. I had a little bit of, my friend from Santa Cruz, he was pretty crazy. I had a little bit of like, I wasn't completely alone. He went to jail for a little bit, and he had this trick his uncle told him. He's ridiculous, but you got to be a little bit crazy when you're all alone. But he took a bicycle spoke, and he sharpened an end of it to make it into basically a spear that long, and then he stuck it up the seam of his pants. So when he went to, why did he go to prison? He went for a little bit. Puerto Rican jails, I haven't been. He went in with that. And I think he was just in and out. But that was his little backup. He had a fucking shank in the seam of his pants. I don't even know if fucking they just confiscated his clothes or what, but these stupid little things in your mind, like stupid shit. He got a knife pulled on him when he was down there. But yeah, it's just the wild. It's not good, it's not bad. It is human nature when there's more anxiety and less safety nets, less supervision. There's a balance, but the balance is achieved through you kind of got to get to know people, and then they want to get to know you, and there might be testing of you a little bit, and you don't want to, if you overreact, that's a bad thing, but if you don't react, that's a bad thing. So every time I saw that guy, I was just like, yo, where's my shit? He was like, what? I was like, that's on you, man. I can't just be cool with you. And he's like, but I see his character. Yeah, and then, it's been, what, 7 years I know that guy. He goes to jail shortly after that, offering me work. How did I know not to accept work? I wouldn't be who I am now if I walked in those circles. So I just, in the neighborhoods I grew up in, learned how to avoid that without, I don't know, it's interesting. You see other people who can't avoid that because they're too much in that. And then you see, yeah, I had people selling meth above my house in Redlands when I got out of the army, and I lived in the apartment complex, and then they tried to sell it to not sell it to my friend, but they pulled a bag out in front of my friend who was recovering, and I scared them the fuck out of there. I said, you trying to sell meth to my friend? She's yelling. She fucking ran into her car. She was like the daughter of the principal or some shit, cheerleader from our high school, coming to our neighborhood to buy her drugs. And then because my friend was clean, trying to did I get ripped off? What do you think about this? And I had just come home from work, and I saw her just fucking with a bag out with my friend in front of our apartment, and I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, that's the same friend who was in Puerto Rico. And so, I mean, that's not like, but over there it's so much a part of the culture. Not culture, but like, there's a lot of drugs that come up through the Caribbean. And how do you walk that walk in between? You don't want to be in that world. But so what, when you're at a bar, people are doing lines, you learn not to ask questions. I knew a kid in Big Sur who told me he was working in a bar and they were cutting up a bunch of shit in the back of the bar. And he stopped working there soon after, but he was a little naive and he thought it was a big deal, or he started bringing it up. It's like, it's not really, this world isn't black and white. This world isn't cops versus bad guys. The law, once you start getting into the drug war, the banks launder money for the cartels, and the CIA is involved in global drug smuggling historically. Maybe not currently, maybe currently. They're a secret operation. It's like they go and bust 90 cops down there who were providing security for drug operations. What the fuck? And these people have families and they're making money, and most of that island's on welfare. Who are they hurting? If we decriminalize all the drugs, who are we hurting? Well, everyone just wants to get by. It's not my. I try to. But that's what that guy, he's like. But at the same time, I'm not going to get involved. I got other shit I'm trying to do in my life. I'm not trying to. I don't have any illusions of. That's what kind of bugs me, I guess, in rap music and other stuff. Illusions of Scarface and illusions of kingpindom. It's like that life. The people just want to live and get by. There's no glory in that. There's no evilness in that either, I don't think. It's fucking cocaine works. Don't do it too much, but don't do it ever. It's a fucking interesting thing to do. If you're doing lines with someone and they're like, this is straight off the block, and I was joking around, I was like, whatever, this has been stepped on. I've had better shit in New York. And the dude looked at me and stopped. He was like, this is straight off the block. I'm like, okay, I should shut the fuck up. I'm insulting someone. This is fucking, but it's not, whose business is that? And then the law enforcement would be like, fucking, this whole idea of not snitching on people and fucking code of silence in the street is stupid. It keeps us from doing our job. Well, let's audit the fucking drug war. Is that stupid? How many lives do you ruin? Well, later on we're going to come to when I was arrested for weed. How many people are in jail for nonviolent drug offense? Now, part of this whole year has been me walking back to my values and who I actually identify with. And I identify with poor people at the bottom of society. That's where I was born into. And this whole brokering shit was interesting to peek in those doors, but those aren't my people. When I was in Vieques, that's when people try to test you. It's like, I'm just a dude. I'm just living. I just am who I am. I try to have a word. I'm straight up. Don't fuck with me. I don't fuck with people. That's all you can do. And you just try to let people know that. And if they want to fight, it's like, I'm not. But you gotta it's if you talk about it too much, it becomes its own thing. You talk about violence too much, it becomes its own fetish. You just live according to your word and your character, and that's all. But that means that you're one way, and you just don't bend. I don't know. It's an intuitive way of just living, I guess. I started talking about the girls. So, there's this, so there's that one girl at the bar. I'm at the bar, and, I got a couple open conversations down there, people I want to check in on. But, I'm at that, I'll get one memory and I want to talk about that, but I also want to do this linearly. But I went down there when I was doing real estate, because I was getting money for the first time, and I had to ball out a little bit, go down there and actually, because I was the dude, crazy guy with fucking no shoes running around. Shah eventually came down there to visit me. I can do this linearly. I'm at this one bar. I meet this girl. She's a creative, artistic girl. Usually artistic people go down there. And I have a little bit of work, a little bit of money in my pocket. I'm like, fuck, time to get laid. And we're talking. And there's these full moon parties. And the first full moon party I go to, they're letting the lanterns into the fucking air over the ocean. You look across the ocean, you see the sky dotted with paper lanterns. They have a fucking DJ, which isn't really my thing. I'd rather like live music and shit, but they have lasers, a DJ, huge bonfire. There's this dude who would hunt iguanas for people on their land. He would hunt iguanas with a pellet gun, and then he'd make wings out of them. Iguanas don't have wings, but they have meaty little legs, which actually are tasty if you marinate them. And so me and him are fucking, he was a pretty cool dude, some other people. This is after I've already been come up on, and I sort of see the score, like, all right, whatever, that's my fucking tax, I got you. But like, I'm just like my friend, she told that dude, she was like, yo, he's sticking around for a minute. He's not like a tourist coming in and out. So like, you guys got a thing now. Like, he's kind of stubborn. But, we're at some party, and this girl's there. I'm starting to get to know her, and this is where I start. I'm trying to figure out how I approach girls, and I lead with the writing. I still want to write, and I'm down there writing, but what I've done is all of that political shit. Oh, and I was watching this. I don't know if I talked about it in the one that was erased, but this Spartacus show on Stars. So when I was at my folks' house, I would be working out and I'd be fucking making this music and doing this writing, internalizing the values of this new political system, which is out the dominant narrative, and like, all right, what's really going on? What are the real values? Like the leaders of the past and fucking what, just whatever knowledge and little factoids, which now I'm trying to accumulate into a political philosophy. Back then I was just synthesizing into something that I could store away for later in these pieces of art. And I'm also working out, and I'm like, oh fuck, where do I want to be in life? What do I want to do? Like, I just felt unhappy. A lot of internet porn, a lot of loneliness. So I went back to New York. So I'm watching this Spartacus show, and people are big and buff, and I'm like, I just want to be somewhere where I could work out, work on my tan, and I would love to be near the ocean. And then that's when I think, oh fucking, I have friends in the Caribbean right now. And then my friend was like, can you send me my bike? And that's when I was like, all right, this is an excuse. Show up with their bike. Fuck, here's your bike, and here I am. If you could just help me out for a week, I'll figure it out. Which she did, and I figured it out. So now I'm down there, and I was like on an artistic kick. All right, I'm going to put my politics into art. I'm going to work on that project. Get a lot of inspiration from the history of that island. I'm outside like that's what you feel like when you're down there. Is like you're away from the billboards. You're away from the fucking, the advertising. You're just nature is just. It's like a constant fucking mushroom trip. And then and so this girl, I'm talking to her, and I'm leading with my art. I find that when I talk about my art and my passion and my values, and girls will tell you that. They'll say that they like passionate people. If you have a passion and your interest and your sincerity, that's what the dancer girl, she just doesn't understand this year of my life, because she feels like I'm giving up on real estate. She thought that was my passion, and she doesn't see it's kind of hard to explain my current project to people, which is why I have hope for us in the future, is if we can, maybe if after my current project has some traction, she will understand why I've been acting the way I've been acting this year, or maybe she'll be moved on to someone else. I found you can't really wait for people in your life. You gotta just trust. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. The Rochefoucauld said, love cannot be found where it is not, and it cannot be hidden where it is. If it's love, then when the opportunity comes, it will present itself. And if not, if she's happy, she's happy. If you selflessly love someone, then you want their happiness. You don't merely want your happiness. Love out of not wanting to be lonely is different. But if you really love someone and you want them to be happy, then if they're happy, they're happy. And then that should provide you some closure. Closure, when you learn how to love with your heart and not with your ego, closure is the other person being happy in whatever form that is, with you or with someone else. Now, if they're not with someone else, then why aren't they with you? And that's when you can go into pursuit mode. So I'm talking to this girl, and eventually we walk away from the party down the beach, and we have a little bit of sex on the beach, which is terrible. The fucking sand gets everywhere. It's coarse, it's irritating, it gets everywhere. No, it's not that bad, but it's interesting. Just like having sex in the ocean is interesting, but it's interesting. You do stuff just having sex in a pool. Aggressive 69, right? All the interesting things. But no, we had a good connection. A lot of times in my life I should have used more condoms. But yeah, she was cool, and that just kind of broke the seal. I was like, all right, fucking, that's what this island's all about. When you live in a tourist area, if you're living in a hostel, or if you're living with a lot of influx of tourists, you realize that there's this energy of travelers, especially with the girls. They want their experience and their stories. So this one who comes down from Austin, Texas, and we're on a tour in the bioluminescent bay, and we're touching the water, it's all lighting up, and I tell her to come out and swim with me, and we swim away from the group. And this is in the bay. You can't swim in it anymore. They stopped after someone got bit by a shark, because these bays are fish estuaries. This is where big fish come in, lay their babies, and then go back out in the ocean. The bays have like 30% saltier than the ocean. They're a high salinity content. It's almost like the Salton Sea. Not as bad. So the little fish can live in it okay, but once they get too big, they have to go find the mouth of the bay to go into the ocean. So it's a natural nursery for them, and it keeps out the large predators. So when we're kayaking around in this bay, you can you'll come across like maybe a stingray, and you'll see underneath the surface just a huge angel wings, like just lighting up bright blue, like this bright, but blue like a glow stick, like that bright. It's fucking amazing. When the rain comes, if you're lucky enough to be on the bay, when the rain comes, you'll see like diamonds across the whole bay lighting up. You'll see the droplets coming towards you. When you throw water in the air, you see droplets just shimmer everywhere. Imagine every time you agitate the water, light. Um, so yeah, so when we could swim, so there's this girl from Austin, and I was like, hey, let's swim out. My favorite time was when the moon was rising, because the moonlight interferes with the bioluminescence. But if the moon's rising, you still have bioluminescence over here, but then you have this cool, like, milky yellowish moonlight coming off the water, but low enough to the horizon that it's just slightly off the bay. So me and her just swim out into the moonlight and start making out, and yeah, stuff like that. In nature, in beauty, it's really easy. I start to realize that romance has a lot to do with narratives. It's a lot easier when you have a vacation and this tour guide type guy, and I'm in a position of authority now, and but not to abuse that authority. Like, now you're on my tour and you'll do what I say, but just like you're automatically like kind of cool, and then and they have a place, they have a hotel, and so now you have a place to go to. I was not all of the interactions were good. Sometimes, one of the times I was a dick, at least once. I had yeah, I invited Shaw. At one point I thought, shit, I could hook up with a tourist a week over here. I could really get some experience. But then you just, if you're sensitive, it's like like even like the fucking most player of dudes over there. Eventually you fall for a girl, you try to follow her back to the States. That's a joke. Everyone kind of like falls for a tourist, and then that person disappears from the island for a couple months, and then they come back. It's like, what happened? Oh, it didn't work out. But like, you just, because you can only date so many people on the island, so eventually you yeah, eventually you kind of follow one of these girls back. That's what I did too. That's how I got arrested in Florida for weed possession, because I was going to go to Seattle. I had met a girl. She was on my tour. I could tell that the tour guide kind of wanted to hook up with her, and there was an extra kayak, and she had to, or no, there was an odd number of people. She had to ride with one of the tour guides. But this is a good story. The tour guide had a girlfriend. And I know that because I had tried to hook up with his girlfriend before he came back to the island. He was off the island. His girlfriend was still pining for him, but she was a really good girl. She was pretty, but that wasn't the thing. Her spirit was just fucking like no bullshit. Like, people were scared of her, and I love that, like, strong spirit. Like, she was fucking a maniac. She was known. Her pinky was permanently like crooked because she crashed a dirt bike, racing in the dirt roads next to the ocean. She was just wild. She was she was a wild spirit, and so I like to bike and work out and stuff. And we were gonna go biking in the morning, and I had talked her into letting me crash at her place so we could go biking in the morning. She was like, "All right, but don't fucking." Some of the girls down there are like just tired of the bullshit from men growing up with, like, sometimes the culture could be a little misogynist in any Latin American country. Just the women are like treated like horses. You got to break them and shit like that. Or fucking. So she was like, her guard was up, and I was like, no, I'm fucking. I'm just gonna come over, and just so we can wake up early. That's all. Just so we. But me thinking, I'm like professional player now, fucking being able to like swing these tourist girls. But she wasn't a tourist. She was a local one. And one of the dudes, he told me, my boss, he was like, you got to convince her that you want her for a reason, not a season. And in my mind, I didn't get that. I was like, fuck, I don't want her for the whole season. I'm just trying to hook up with this girl. But what he meant is like, no, like, she's looking for a relationship. She doesn't want just a season. Like, some of the relationships down there are just like for the winter season or the summer season. The summer's a slow time. So that's what, like, you hook up with someone during the summer just because that's your cuddle buddy for the summer. Kind of like where, like, I think Martha's Vineyard is like that. Some of these other tourist places, off season, the locals hook up, and then on season, all of a sudden they go out and they play with the tourists. Martha's Vineyard reminded me a lot like Vieques tourist economy, with the people and the money, just another level. And you see all these same patterns happen, for good and for bad. I ain't like a lot of the patterns I saw, a lot of predatory patterns. But yeah, so I go over there and I'm crashing with her. We're ready to go to sleep, and I'm running my mouth. I'm fucking starting to think I have a little bit of swag. And I'm like, I'm on the couch and she's up in the loft. And I'm like, are you sure you don't want me to come up on the bed? She's like, what? And I was like, I'm just saying, like, you sure you don't want me to? The same fucking move I used in Brooklyn to great effect with that younger girl. But she's not younger. She's a little bit older than me, this girl. And she was like, oh, you're going to try to start that bullshit? You could get the fuck out of here. And I was like, no, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to sleep. I'm joking. She was like, no, you can get the fuck out of my house. It was like 2 in the morning. We had just smoked a bowl, had a really good conversation, and we were supposed to go on a bike ride in the morning. And I was like, look, and I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. I'm going to sleep on the couch. We're going to have a really good day tomorrow. She was like, no, you fucked that up. Now you have to leave my house. And I was like, you really going to kick me out right now? And she was like, I am about to start screaming because you're out. It's not the police. It's the fucking, we're out in the boonies in the middle of the island. She's like, I'm about to start screaming and my neighbor's going to come over here with a gun. So you need to get the fuck out now or you're going to have a lot more problems than walking home. And I'm like, once you get that tone, it's like, yeah, I fucked up. That's what, you could be as stupid as you want in life. You just got to suffer the consequences of your actions. That's all you got to do in life. There's only one rule, is suffer the consequences of your actions. Have a word, work on your character. Otherwise, you're going to probably be fucking hitting some branches on your way down. And I was just like, man, I fucked this up. Who knows? Maybe if I just stuck in it, but she wasn't about to. That I misread the whole situation. She wasn't a get to know her a little bit and jump into the bed. It might have been a couple weeks or a month, but whatever. Everything works out for the best. Her boyfriend came back into town and they hooked up, and I couldn't have been friends with him if, or it would have been funny if something had happened. So it all worked out for the best. Yeah, because then he was a really cool dude and we had some really cool adventures. He showed me some cool spearfishing spots and he was such a solid dude. And that's another thing, is realizing the connection between people. Your appetite could get in the way of some really cool friendships. So it's not good to lead with your dick all the time. But so I had to walk home that night through like the worst part of the island, and I pulled out my knife and I fucking just had like my bag and my shit, and I just kind of walking through these neighborhoods with a lot of fucking angry dogs in the yards, fucking pit bulls and shit. Luckily, some of them have them running in the streets and shit. But just, that's a fucking terrible feeling, just walking through neighborhoods where I was really proud when I could walk through my neighborhood and the dogs wouldn't bark, because they get to know you. And so when they bark, it's because someone's walking through your neighborhood that no one knows. And that's when you're walking through these neighborhoods and there's all these dogs barking, it's like they're letting everyone know that you're walking through. It's just, this one's barking all the way down the street and now you gotta walk through all that shit. It's just like, it's just a lot of fucking attention. But I made it home okay. And yeah, I remember I would walk, my neighborhood was like a 15-20 minute walk from the local bar, or like a 5-7 minute jog. So I jog home from the bar sometimes, and there's this one, he was a pit. He would run out of his yard every time I would run past his fucking yard. And I'd have to stop, because down there you learn also just these little life lessons. There's a Rottweiler like that too. I had to square up with him, because if I run, he'll actually try to bite me in the fucking feet and legs. You got to stop and turn and square up and be like, dude, fucking, or you have to lean like you're going to pick up a rock, because they've had enough rocks thrown at them that if you lean down, they'll back up out of rock throwing distance. But if I run, this dude will actually nip at my feet. I have to fucking stop. And so I got into the habit of, I had little ghetto shit. I had a bag, but instead of the strings, I put chain. So I had a bag, but I also had a chain on me. Little stupid shit. You always have like something to fucking defend yourself with. And so when I'm running home and this dog comes out, I had one motion, I would be able to take off my bag and start swinging my bag around to fucking keep distance from this dog. So as I'm jogging by this one specific house that left their yard open with this mean ass dog, I could start swinging my bag to keep him far enough away from me until I got far enough away from his house where he gave up the chase. And I remember when he stopped chasing me. I remember when I made my peace with the dog. I remember I could walk home and not make a noise and not disturb my neighborhood. And I was like, finally, thank you. I like that house. And I had a pit for a little bit. Little baby I gave up. Little Blue Nose, my friend. She said she found him on the street, but she probably stole him from somewhere. He was a beautiful little dog. A lot of lessons. in Vieques. What I was gonna mention. So I'm on that tour. That's gonna segue to the next one when I got arrested for weed, and this girl from Seattle's on our tour, and I can tell that the instructor, the lead guide, wanted her to go in his kayak because it's his type of girl, small, petite little girl, a lot like his girlfriend. But in my mind, I'm like, nah, dude, I know your girlfriend. Your girlfriend is gonna whoop your ass, dude. She's the one who kicked me out of her place. So I was like, you're not gonna fucking play that game. I was like, she's gonna go in my kayak. And I looked at him, and he kind of knew what's up. It's like, nah, dude, we both know your girlfriend, all right? You're not going anywhere with this girl. Give her to the single guy. And then I snuck some beers on that tour, gave her a beer. Knew she was cool. She looked back at me with a smirk, and we were drinking beers in the back while everyone else was going through the mangroves. Instead of do the snorkeling, she sat with me on the beach. And then she gave me her number at the end of the tour, but she didn't tip me. And we work mostly for the tips at the end, how we make most of our money. And she told me later on that night, I was gonna tip you, but I wasn't gonna give you a tip and my number because that would be weird. And I was like, all right, I get that, because she liked me. We had really good sex. We had, she told me, getting to know women and their bodies. She was like, that was almost a mind-shattering orgasm. Like you start to realize that there's levels to this shit. A guy comes, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's really good. But for a woman, there's like, sex is nice, but then there's like full body shit, and then there's like, as she described it, like earth-shattering, mind-shattering. She was like, you got me pretty good. Like, you almost got me to like my peak. Like, we had some potential just off the bat. We just had a lot of sexual energy. I was 29 and she was 32, or maybe I was 28. She was older than me by a couple years. Going to graduate school, going back to school, working as a bartender. And then I got attacked on the beach with her, and she sat in the hospital with me while I got stitched up. And then we just went through a lot within a couple days. We had a lot of fucking adventures, a really good sexual chemistry right away. Just jumped right into the relationship mode. I started to get good at that, just when I find my type of person and my type of vibe, and then also confident physically. We just like, yeah, we both know what we want. We're right there. Someone who matches your libido, and then also like other things. The island was a really good filter for that, because if they found the island and you're living on the island and they love the island for what it is, for its rugged rawness, because it's not an easy place to get to, and it doesn't have like touristy shit. So if you're there, you probably love nature, and you love like that whole like pirate wild culture and the ocean and all the other things. You've already qualified. That's why a lot of people would get married in the army, because you get extra benefits, but also because especially military intelligence or a very specific MOS, it's a great filter for just life in general. So you meet a lot of people who are similar to you, similar backgrounds. A lot of Christians, conservative Christians, join the military families. People who messed up a little bit in high school, so college wasn't the one thing for them, but they were really smart. So that island, I meet so many people who vibe with me on like a spiritual level there. It's the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle ends at Punta Diablo, which is on the north side of the island. There's so many reasons why the energy is crazy over there. So this girl, I'm like, hey, I want to go visit you in Seattle. I just started writing her emails. Let's make a thing of it. Let's do it. And that's the ones that we're going to get into in a minute, I think. She was like, and I was like, good relationships have started on less than good sex. So why not? No, we're going to read that next. Well, we're going to, I guess, do the mugshot Facebook first, and then we'll do that one. I'll talk more about the fucking Vieques too in that next one. So, yeah, she was like, why not? I guess so. I'm in between relationships. That's no expectations. And I was like, yeah, no, we're like, it's just whatever. It's a crazy idea. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I was going there just like I went to Vieques. Just give me a spot for a week or two. If I find a job and we click, great. If not, I always felt like Seattle was in my type of personality. So maybe you're just my reason to go to Seattle. But at the very least, I go there and we continue what we started down here, which is pretty fucking good. Like that's how I was living. Just this adventure to the next one. But before that, my friend in Florida, Addie, was back in my life. And she said she just tried to kill herself. She just took her boyfriend's gun and put it to her head, pulled the trigger, but he had taken out the firing pin. And she said she really thought that she was capable of killing herself, and she was really scared. And I said, well, I'm going to come visit you. I didn't tell her I was going to Seattle, but I said, I'm going to come visit you. And the plan was to go to Seattle afterwards to give her a hug and to possibly say goodbye. but just to check in on her, check in on my friends, and ended up in jail.